All right, let's make sure we go live. Just kind of keeping an eye on the stream because I know I'm going to be delayed, so I'm explaining why I'm looking away. Let's see, make sure we connect up. There we go. There we go. We're live. I want to see how much of a delay I had, so turn up my device for just a second. So, well, hello and welcome back to Chiefsman's Corner Live. As you can see, it's the most amateur sports podcast out there for the WFL. I do have YouTube pulled up on another device ready to respond to any live comments from any listeners, and I appreciate you being here live if you can. I am your host, one of the leadership team here of the WFL, Coach Winuvas of the Los Angeles Chargers. At least for this week I am. I might be different next week with this Madden cycle. Who knows? This show will dive into our Week 13 games, our usual players of the podcast. We do have some questions in our Ask the Chief segment. And I'll also hop on my commissioner's soapbox tonight to go over a couple of things that concern the league as a whole. To anyone tuned in, welcome aboard and thank you for listening. Please comment in YouTube chat and I will gladly respond to them live or slightly delayed since there is a little bit of a delay between me and you. If you are watching the recording this, however, we still thank you for watching. Any and all support is appreciated. Without you guys, the WFL does not exist. The first thing, as always, that I talk about every time I lead off the show is the WFL's incentive plan, especially with the end of the season coming. This plan allows you to get some perks that aren't available for every member simply by doing some extracurricular activities that involve WFL. Anything from Twitter to articles on the Neon Sports site to commenting or participating in the show, even chatting in Discord can earn you points. Anything that makes WFL a more immersive experience and increases its presence in the Madden community earns you some sort of credit. Link to the incentive plan is available using the command /incentive plan in Discord. That is all one word, /incentive plan in Discord. If you have any issues bringing up the custom commands I talk about tonight or any night I do a podcast, you can type /help, tap or click on the blue face that represents the Me6 bot that we use for our custom commands. Then you click on the word plugin that pops up shortly afterwards. Then you will choose the word commands and all our custom commands will pop up, and most of them do have an explanation as to their functionality. So do be aware of that as you go forward. It's tap if you're on a phone, obviously. It's type in if you're on a desktop or laptop like I am tonight. Second thing to talk about is our Ask the Chief form. Use this form during the week between episodes to submit any questions you have for me, and I'll try and answer them during the show, giving you credit for the question. It's an easy way to build up incentive points and provide extra content for the podcast. Use the command /AskTheChief, that is all one word, /AskTheChief, to pull up the form in Discord. With the end of the season coming ever closer, as we are currently in Week 14, we're starting to ask folks to go ahead and fill out our end-of-season survey. This survey is completely optional, but it gives you an opportunity to speak up on any issues you see in WFL, both good and bad. I respond via DM to any survey turned in, and I am the only one who reads the surveys. I do want WFL to be a destination league, and this is one process we use to keep us moving in a positive direction. Use the custom command /WFL survey, all one word, in Discord to get a link to the survey in the next few game weeks. With housekeeping out of the way, we're going to recap the scores from Week 13 action and highlight our offensive and defensive players of the podcast from Week 13 as we get to, let me pull it up here. Once again, told you it's the most amateur spot on the podcast. And of course, on a live broadcast, I have to log in to Neon Sports to pop it up. So of course it's going to give me issues. And let's go ahead and bring it up now and get it zoomed in so that way everybody can see the wonderful stuff as we move on to, let's go to games and schedule in Week 12. Week 13, I should say. I had this pulled up, but apparently I pulled up the wrong link. Anyway, as we go through the scores, Atlanta Falcons and Coach Studley get a well-needed win over the Minnesota Vikings CPU team. 24-6 is your final there. Coach Studley moves up to 7-5, as the Minnesota Vikings fall to 1-12. CPU is having a rough go of it in Minnesota. The Detroit Lions and Polio eke a win out, eke being an operative word there, over the Carolina Panthers CPU, 34-13. Unfortunately, we lost our Carolina Panthers coach Ruffles over the week due to some real life busyness issues. Hopefully he'll be back with us in the Madden 24 cycle. We wish him well. He's still in Discord chat, and definitely welcome back whenever he is available and has some free time. But the Lions beat up on the Panthers. CPU 34-13 again is the final. Detroit moves above 500 to 7-6, and Carolina falls to 5-7. In a CPU simulated game, which is a little bit of controversy for the leadership team, but we fixed that problem. The Rams overcome the 49ers 45-14 is your final there. The Rams move to 9-3, well in control of the NFC West, while San Francisco CPU falls to 3-9. In a clash of new faces in new places, or old faces in new places, I guess I should say. The Houston Texans back under Coach Blackhawk. I gave them up so Blackhawk can move back with his real life cousin Juke. They have a friendly little rivalry game there, and Houston overtakes the Colts 36-29 is your final there. Houston moves up to 7-5 and leads that division by a couple of games in hand over the Colts, who fall to 4-9 and need some help to catch up in these final weeks to maybe get a hold of the division if possible. It's going to take a little bit of work there to do that, but if anybody can do it, I think Juke can do it. Another game, the CPU Patriots, lose to the New York Jets 40-21 is your final. I do believe this is a simulated game. I do not 100% remember. I know there were 3 games simulated this week, but Kobe and his Jets moved to 9-3, quietly being one of the dominant forces in the AFC, and the New England Patriots CPU falls to 1-11 on the regular season. CPU Denver Broncos, however, not having as much trouble as the Patriots or the Vikings this season. They moved to 6-7 as they wallop on Too Cold and his new team, the Buffalo Bills. 38-10 is your final there. Too Cold takes a little bit of a hard lump in his game against the Denver Broncos. He falls to 500 at 6-6, and Denver moves to 6-7 on the season, and challenging, oddly enough, for the AFC West there against the Chiefs and I believe the Chargers. Ravens and Browns face off, and the Browns eke out a victory. 31-22 is your final there. The Ravens fall to 500 at 6-6 with new owner Hachi 12-12, and Cleveland moves up to 7-5 with Waffles at the helm. Another battle between some old foes as Ross and Cly go at it. Dolphins against Giants, and the Dolphins eke out a 3-point victory over the Giants, 31-28 your final there. Miami goes up to 9-3 on the season, while the Giants fall to a measly 9-4 on the regular season. Still good seasons for both guys there. The Bengals put a little bit of a whooping on the Las Vegas Raiders. We welcome Lamikra back for a little bit after his little bit of hiatus due to some real life stuff going on in his life. He's back, and unfortunately he's on the short end of a stick against the Cincinnati Bengals. 41-7 is the final there. Cincinnati moves up to 9-4. Coach Rusta owning kind of the AFC North, while the Raiders fall to 3-9 on the season. And according to Neon Sports, your game of the week, and I feel like it was, the Green Bay Packers overcome the Chicago Bears in a sim, I do believe. I don't think these guys got a chance to play it out. 38-24 is your final here. Meek Boy and the Packers move to 10-3, and Chicago gets their first loss of the season and goes to 12-1 on the regular season. In other action in the NFC East, the Commanders, another simulated game, unfortunately due to schedule conflicts. The Commanders overcome the Cowboys 28-20. I think this was a game that was attempted or was attempted to be attempted, and they just couldn't either coordinate schedules or we had a disconnect, some kind of thing. But the Commanders get a much-needed win to keep pace in the NFC East with the Giants and with the Eagles as Dallas falls to 4-9. Cooley G, we welcome you to the league, sir, but it is a tough league to be in here in the NFC East. There's a lot of monsters there in the NFC East, and you have dove into the shark tank, I do believe. Our only CPU versus CPU matchup finds the Cardinals eking out a 3-point win over the Saints. 27-24 is your final there. Arizona creeps up to 6-7, and the Saints fall to 3-10. In another CPU versus user matchup, the Pittsburgh Steelers and a surprise in Chili Key there in Pittsburgh. 42-35 is your final there. The CPU Seahawks fall to 6-7, while the Pittsburgh Steelers move up to 8-4 and challenging for that AFC North title with the Bengals. And in, I do believe, a simulated game that was played out but not completed due to a disconnect. We have the Eagles overcoming the Buccaneers 42-7 is your final. The Eagles also keeping pace in that NFC East. 9-3 is their record as they head into Week 14, and Tampa Bay falls to 9-4, well in control of the NFC South. And that is your Week 13 matchups in order. As I come back on screen here, boop, there we go. Your players of the podcast, not a whole lot of players that needed to be argued about on the defensive side. I generally try to pull some guys that are a little bit of surprises, but we did have a few CPU simulations. My offensive player of the podcast is a guy I drafted, and somebody else is doing much better with him than I ever did. That is Texans quarterback Bryce Young, 20 of 23, 272 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick in a 36-29 win over the Indianapolis Colts. He earns my offensive player of the podcast, way better than I ever did with him. And the defensive player of the podcast is Bengals defensive end Trey Hendrickson, who had 3 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and a pass deflection in a 41-7 win over the Las Vegas Raiders. So as I turn to the Ask the Chief segment, as I bring the Ask the Chief questions back online, we have one question that's a dual part question, and it ties into the question that's next in the question list. If that makes any sense to you at all, congratulations. I'm going to zoom in here, so I'm going to get close. And Smash asks, besides the Bears, which teams have surprised you this season with their records winning and losing? How many more seasons do you think we can get in? Which ties into Blackhawks' question. Realistically, how many more seasons do you think will be played on this file? Let's go first into the initial part question, which is the teams that have surprised me, both good and bad. I looked, and there's really not a whole lot of surprises on the bad side, just because we've had a lot of shifting of teams over the last couple of weeks. We've had some guys that are unhappy in their division for whatever reason, which will kind of be tied into my soapbox here in a few minutes. But we've had a lot of shifting of players from teams to new teams, so it's hard for me to gauge badness whenever I see like Juke taking over a Colts team that was pretty bad when he took them over. And he essentially is just kind of making the best of a bad situation with his team. Blackhawks and Blackhawk takes over the Texans, who were at least above 500, but they were in a division that was pretty weak to begin with. And because I was leading the division, so that should tell you how weak it was. But he takes over, hopefully, a talented squad for him, and he can keep that thing going. I do have one surprise team that it's not really picking on him a little bit, but I'm going to say Chilkey and the Steelers is kind of my surprise team. A guy who really struggled early out of the cycle. I want to say he started as the Cardinals in our old file that we had. Then when we did the new file, he decided to swap over to the Steelers. And since he's been the Steelers and gotten a hold of Anthony Richardson, he has been lights out phenomenal. 8-4. He's basically right there in the running for the division lead there with the Bengals and with the Browns. He's in a dogfight to be sure, but he's currently second in that division. So I would say Chilkey is probably my number one guy. I would say is a surprise for me. I looked at the rest of them, and kind of guys are either where I expect them to be, or it's too much of a changeover for me to tell if it's something that they've done or something that's preordained. Like Too Cold going to the Bills. He's 6-6. Is it Too Cold or is it the Bills? I mean, he only played one game there. Same with Juke and the Colts. Same with Blackhawk and the Texans. And same, I actually have not yet played a game as the Chargers. I have yet to play a game because last week I had a bye, and this week I played the CPU Patriots, who I've not yet played. I might try and play them tomorrow. But I think the biggest surprise I would point out on the good side, because I'm not really, right now, I'm not into the negative. I will be in a few minutes. And that is Chilkey and the Steelers. I think that's a real good story. He struggled a little bit that one season we had in Madden 22. He had, oh boy, okay, I got a question on the live chat I'll answer here in just a sec. And like I said, Chilkey, had struggled, moved to a new team with a new file, and I think he's found some success, and he's enjoying himself in Pittsburgh, so that's a good thing. And I'm happy for him because he did struggle for a good bit. And he seems like a genuinely good guy, so I'm happy to see him doing well and hopefully enjoying his team that he has. I just had over the YouTube chat. What is the most exciting part about the Chargers? Really, realistically for me, a chance to potentially kind of play spoiler in the AFC West. Justin Herbert is a phenomenal quarterback, but I've got to find cap space for him because currently speaking, to try and sign him, if I tried to sign him, I would be negative $29 million in the hole. So I will have to make some tough cuts. This will probably be the last season that this crew, as you see it, with guys like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Khalil Mack, some of those veteran guys that are getting a little long in the tooth that also have big contracts will be cut in the offseason because I have to keep Justin Herbert around and build around him. However, the possibility could exist that Herbert hits free agency, which I don't want, but if I can't make the cuts I need. So the big thing about the Chargers is I know they're cap strapped, and I'm always a guy that's in the past has taken over cap strap teams and tried to get them to some modicum of success as far as from a cap standpoint, not from a win-loss standpoint because I'm horrible. So I think the most appealing thing to me is having that cap situation, and to be honest, I really like having Joey Bosa. I like having a legit pass rusher on one side, and Khalil Mack is still too. I like having some pass rush, and I do like having Derwin James back there in the back end to hopefully clean up some mess in the back end in the secondary. So I like the attackers they have at certain points on defense. On offense, I'm boring as mud. I really am. It's like watching paint dry whenever I play offense, so I'm really just going to handicap Herbert. But I'm hoping that I can play spoiler in the AFC West and then get the cap situation resolved for next season. That's the big thing. Going forward, but I might not even stay in Los Angeles. Depends. I kind of am just kind of wanting to go wherever is fun. I'm kind of busting my own rule about the one team change per season per cycle, which leads me into the question I got on the Ask the Chief segment. Other than the surprise teams, which is how many seasons are we going to have left in the cycle? I'm looking at it this way, and you can take this as you will. We officially got basically 2 seasons in before EA screwed us. I almost said something else. Before EA screwed us. This will be officially season 3, essentially, because when we got blanked on the cycle on December 28th, we were pretty much at week, I believe, 14 or 15. And at that point, we were pretty much near the end anyway, so it would have been another week or two and we'd have finished that season out anyway. That was the game plan, is I went off on hiatus for the show and then was going to come back and basically lead into the playoffs. But EA said, no, you're not going to. Ha, 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 ha. And so they screwed us, and so we started a new file. And this file, we're finishing up season 1, technically, of it. We basically simulated out a season to get to a draft so we could, or started at the wild card so we could finish out a season and simulated or do a draft and then start this season. So this is technically, I consider it the 3rd season of this cycle, even though it doesn't feel like it because we've had to restart so many times, mostly due to EA shenanigans. I think we could get 5 seasons in if the ownership is motivated. It's going to come down to ownership motivation. And with Madden 23 being such a bummer of the cycle, I know we'll get one more in. The second one is going to be entirely up to the owner base. If you guys want to push through and do a third, I would not mind. It would take us probably into July-ish, maybe sooner if we really push the scheduling thread, which we're starting to do a little more. Maybe we push the 36 to 48 hour schedule, and if you're not scheduled, we just move on. I could see us getting 2 solid seasons in, but honestly, that second season is going to depend entirely on the owner base. If guys are checked out in May, then we'll just end it at the end of that season, and we'll wait for Madden 24, and we'll see who comes back for Madden 24. Because Madden 24 is not a guarantee for a lot of us just because of the fact that we got hosed by EA in Madden 23. And that kind of leads me into a little bit into the soapbox. No, it's not about EA though. But yeah, as far as seasons go, 1 definite, 2 is dependent on all of us as a group putting the effort in and putting the work in, and seeing what happens. Now my soapbox. I have seen some trends developing, and this is in both Rims League, Primetime, which I'm a member of. I'm technically one of the admin team, but I'm kind of just more of an advisory setup, but I kind of do admin stuff. I'm more of an advisory type person there. And in my league, WFL. And I'm seeing folks that are basically pushing the envelope on our gray areas of the rules. I'm seeing subjective breaking of the rules, which some of our rules are subjective. Some of them aren't black and white right on the paper. And the subjective one I'm talking about mainly is stat padding. Guys, if you are trying to win awards and win experience bonuses by forcing the ball into a guy multiple times a game, when the game is well in hand, you're still throwing the ball, whether that's against a user or even against the CPU. If we as a leadership team feel it's stat padding, we will report it to the PA. And I've instructed the PA to give strict punishments to anybody who's doing any sort of stat padding. Stat padding will not be tolerated in the WFL, period. If you don't like it, if you don't think it's stat padding, unfortunately it's subjective. It's our decision as a leadership group whether or not it's stat padding. The NFL does not see many games where one team scores 50 to 60 points and the other team scores 0. So when we see that, that's a red flag, especially if the game's been played. And if we see teams getting multiple touchdowns with a certain individual, whether it's a wide receiver or a running back, seeing a bunch of yards accumulate, whether it's on a wide receiver, a running back, or a quarterback, that does perk our ears up. And we will watch. And if we think it's stat padding, we're going to call it like we see it. And if you disagree with it, it's subjective. It's up to us. If you leave it to the judgment of us, you won't like the judgment of us. Okay? And we have already punished a few stat padders this season. Okay? We have. And I'm getting real tired of reporting the same folks to the PA for violations. And all of them are different violations, but it's the same guys over and over again. I'm getting to the point where I'm about to not use the PA anymore. And not because they're not doing a good job. They're doing a great job. They're doing what we asked them to do. But at some point, we as leadership have to say, you know what? You're just not a fit anymore. Okay? Perception in this league is reality. And things where people change teams, and I get DMs or I get messages in chat where I see where somebody's like, I refuse to play X because they play in the gray area. I will never play them again. When I see multiple owners tell me that, that's not on the owners that tell me that. That's on the owner they're talking about. So this is one of those soapboxes where it potentially is targeted and it's intended. If you feel you're the target of this soapbox, then you have two options. You can either toe the line and do things the way we want things done in the WFL, or you can leave. The choice is yours. I have been more than patient with a lot of guys, and most guys in here are really good about following the rules we have, and most of the guys in here are like the rules that we violate are nitpicking at best. But there are a few guys in here that I consistently have to go to the PA and say, hey, they did this. Hey, they did this. Hey, they did this. And some of it is subjective, which means it's my decision or it's the decision of whoever watches the game as to whether or not it's a violation. And subjective means that it's a judgment call. Do not leave it in the hands of a judge. Follow the rule book to the T. If you have any questions on the rule book, ask leadership. If you feel uncomfortable as far as if you don't like the way the rules are written, I suggest strongly you do the end of season survey and we can talk about it. We can see if maybe if enough people say something, we can do some changes. But the rules are the rules. The rules are enforced by the leadership and the PA working together. And there are some guys here that are pretty much on their last leg. So if you feel like this message is preaching to you, then take what I'm saying to heart, clean it up. And if you don't want to clean it up, that's fine. We'll move on. We have CPU teams right now. We've tried to add. This time of year, we're not adding a whole lot of owners, and that's fine. We'll carry over with CPU teams into Madden 24, and we'll replace those people that don't come back or that we choose not to let come back. So if you want to be here, you enjoy being here, I want you here. But if you're here, you're going to follow all my rules, including my motto. It's not about a W. It's not about an L. It is about the WFL. If you don't like that motto, or if you ditch that motto whenever the game is on the line, or a playoff spot's on the line, or a Super Bowl, WFL Bowl's on the line, I'll remove you. And I won't hurt any feelings. I will sleep soundly that night. The rules are the rules. If you don't like them, try and petition to get them changed. But you follow them, or else you'll be gone. Stat padding is not welcome here, nor is consistent rule breaking, even if it's different violations every time. Perception is reality. When I see owners moving out of divisions because of an owner, that says something. When guys tell me via DM, hey, I'm not playing this guy anymore because of this, and I get that from multiple owners about the same guy, that says something about that owner. So once again, for the final time on this soapbox, if you feel like this message is for you, then it is, and either straighten up and fly right, or do us all a favor and excuse yourself from WFL. I'm tired of being nice about it. I'm going to start being ugly. And kind of like Bruce Banner turning into the Hulk. Guys, I'm usually pretty light going and easy going, but don't make me angry. You won't like me when I'm angry. And that's the truth. Now, to come down off the soapbox, because that got a little serious for a second, I want to say to everybody that is still here in February, after we did a restart, after we've gone through all we've gone through this cycle and a little bit in Madden 22, I want to say to everybody that's been loyal to us kind of since day one, thank you. Thank you. I promise you, without you guys, I wouldn't be here. Because when we cratered on December 28th and we lost everything, I was pretty much content to just say, hang it up. I'm done. To a man, though, everybody here said, we're going to restart. You guys wanted to restart, so I felt like I had to be in and do the restart with you. Okay? So without you guys being loyal to this league and being supportive of this league, I personally wouldn't be here. And WFL wouldn't be here at this stage of Madden 23 if not for you guys, the loyal guys, to a man saying, we want to play, we like this league, we think it's the real deal, we want to be here, we want to help. So for those guys, which is a majority of you here in this league, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Okay? Regardless of what happens in Madden 24 with me or with anything else, you guys make the WFL great. It's not a one-man band. It is everybody dancing to the song together the best they can. And you guys make it great. You guys make the league. So for that, thank you. So to kind of make it a little bit more positive as we roll into the outro, which is going to happen right now. So guys, thank you for tuning in. Whether you were live, whether you were giving me questions online, whether you were with me as far as the Ask the Chief stuff. Thank you for everything. Thank you for helping us be a quality league in February. I know it's been tough sledding this cycle. I know it's been a dog pile this cycle. I appreciate you hanging with us. I appreciate you fighting through it with us. There's nobody I'd rather be in the trenches with than this group of guys as far as this goes. I would not want to be anywhere else. Again, thank you. Thank you for tuning in, whether you're live here tonight, whether you're tuning in and watching the recording of this after the fact. I always appreciate it. The WFL always appreciates it. And I hope you were entertained and informed by the show. Let us know by throwing us a like, a subscribe, or leaving any sort of comments. Any feedback, good or bad, is always appreciated, guys. And until next Monday, the corner's closed.